So the first things that you will need, some craft wire about 10 centimetres long, or some pipe cleaner. If you're using a pipe cleaner, then you should leave your pocket open so that it can be removed for washing. Some chalk or a pen, some thread, any colour, it's up to you, some pins. You can manage without pins, but they make things quite a lot easier. Some needles, and some cotton fabric. Now you can get this from anything which is cotton that you have lying around the house that you're happy to chop up, or you can, if you have some squares of cotton lying around, that's better and easier, or you can buy some for this project. You will also need some scissors. It's better to get long bladed scissors or something relatively sharp, and some relatively wide elastic. You can also use a ribbon or even a piece of string. This is quite comfortable and you don't need to remove it to wash it, so I'd recommend getting some nice broad elastic. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my craft wire and I'm going to bend the end over. And again, if you're using a pipe cleaner, you can do this very easily, and you don't need special pliers to do this. You can use any pliers that are lying around or your hands, and you just bend the ends over so that they're not going to pierce through your fabric. There we go. And now we can set that to one side. So I've now cut my first piece of cotton. This is my outer piece, so this is the patterned layer which will be visible from the outside when you're wearing it. This is about 25 centimetres by around 17. And you can make it larger or smaller to fit the face of the person that's going to wear it. Doesn't matter if it's not a precise rectangle, going to be sewing the seams anyway, so that will neaten it up nicely. This is the second piece that you'll need to cut. So this is the inner layer. You can use the same cotton for the top and bottom layers, but it's easier to show if you use different colours. So this piece is about 20 centimetres by 10 centimetres, and this will help to make the pocket for any filter that you want to put in. And this is the final piece of cotton that you need to cut. So this is again about 10 centimetres tall and just over 20 centimetres across. Okay, so you can now see that I've sewn about a third of the way along, and now I'm going to tie off and then start again a few centimetres later, leaving a gap to insert the filter. Okay, so after completing that seam, I'm just going to show you what I have. So I have these three pieces of fabric attached together, and here there is a gap that you can use to put your filter into the middle of your mask. So the next thing that we're going to do, okay, so the next piece that we're going to sew is the pocket for your nose wire. And the way that you make this pocket is by folding over the top of the outer part of the mask over onto the inner part, and then you will sew right along from the end of the inner part to the other end of the inner part. And this will leave a gap in the middle, and you can then slide your nose wire into the gap and sew it in place. So with a nose wire like this, which is made out of aluminium craft wire, which can be easily bought online if you don't have any, then it can be washed with the mask. So the masks have to be washed at a high temperature in order to actually sanitize them between uses. If you are using something like a pipe cleaner you need to be able to remove that in between washing. So what you would do at this point is cut a small slit in your fabric there that you can push the wire out of when you need to wash the mask. If you are leaving your wire in, then once you have folded it over and sewn it down, then you will essentially sew the wire into that top part there. If you want to, you can actually fold over twice like this. That makes a slightly smaller pocket and gives a bit of extra cushioning. So to secure my nose piece, this piece of wire in place, when you come to I've just literally sewn a few stitches up and down there, and now I'll just do the same here. Remembering, of course, if you're not able to get craft wire and you're using a pipe cleaner instead, then you need to make sure that you have a way of taking it out. I think the best way might actually come after this next step, but it might involve making a slit just here, making a small cut there in your fabric, and then you'll be able to take it out when you need to. I'm not actually sure what happens if you do wash a pipe cleaner in a hot wash, but I can foresee lots of horrible things like colour bleaching and all sorts. Right, so it really is very, very quick and easy to just sew it in place. Like that. Okay. And then we can just cut off. Right, so the next step, again, this is just to build up a bit more comfort, because they can actually be quite harsh when you wear these wires on your nose. I imagine a pipe cleaner, the benefit with it is that it is slightly more comfy. So we're going to take what we've already done and we're going to fold it over again. And this time we're going to sew this seam here, and we're going to sew onto the white inner fabric. And that will close the top part of our pocket as well. So I'm just going to pin that in place. This isn't strictly necessary, by the way. If you don't want to do an extra seam, you can just make sure that you sew into the white inner pocket when you're doing the previous seam, and then you can just leave it as it was. So as you can hopefully now see, there's now 2 lines of stitches there. So that adds that extra layer of fabric, that extra fold gives a bit more comfort, and that extra layer of stitching gives a little bit more strength as well. Right, so the final things that we need to do is sew up these sides here. So what we do to do that is we fold it in. It's a bit like making a parcel actually, and then roll in this end, and then roll it again, and you get this nice neat bit here. Now at this point, this is when you will also add in your elastic. So there's a few different ways you can add the elastic on, depending on how you actually want to wear your mask. So the way that I've found most successful is to get your piece of elastic and sew it on with just the end just underneath there, and do the same on all 4 corners as you sew up this final pair of seams. And then you can cut your elastic to the length that you want to either tie behind your ears or tie at the back of your head, and that's up to you. So as you can see, I've attached my elastic, so I've got 1 loop at the top and 1 loop at the bottom. I have used quite a short bit of elastic there. You can make it longer or shorter, just fit it to the person that's going to use it. The other way that I could have attached the elastic is to have 1 piece going round like that, going round like that back to the bottom, which would hook over 1 ear. And just like that, your mask is done and ready to wear. Obviously there are things that you can tidy up. You know, you can go back and redo some of the seams if you like, if you think it's not sturdy enough for you. But besides that, it's ready to go. So I wanted to mention briefly care. So if you've used cotton, then you can wash it in a hot wash, 60 degrees C or above, I think is what's recommended. And you should wash it after every use. The other very important thing is that you don't touch it after you've put it on to go outside. You leave it alone as much as possible. These don't stop viruses from getting out of you or from someone else into you, but there's a chance that they might reduce it, and although currently in the UK it's not recommended to use them, it is in some other countries, and that's why I wanted to give you the option of making your own relatively quickly and easily, and everyone can decide for themselves what is best for them and what they want to do. So at the very least, I hope you have a fairly fun afternoon making a mask. It's a quick and easy project. I've tried to make as simple a pattern as possible, something that's quite easy to follow, and that doesn't require a sewing machine or any kind of more specialised or kind of high interest products. Everything that I've used is either stuff that was already in my mum's sewing box or that I brought from Etsy and arrived within a couple of days. So good luck, and I hope you have fun making your mask.